Earlier this week, Democrats stunned the country by flipping Georgia blue and effectively gaining control of the Senate. So now it's a tight race. Raphael Warnock versus Kelly Loeffler. David Perdue versus John Ossoff. Of course, Warnock definitely crushed Loeffler, but it was a much, much closer race when it came to Ossoff and Perdue. But in the end, Ossoff actually did win the race. And so now Georgia flipped. And it was something that was pretty amazing to behold. So now, along with the House being in control of the Democrats, the White House being in control of Democrats, it appears the Democratic Party might be poised to actually get a couple of things done. One of the promises, for example, immediately made was something that happened to be very effective in favor of getting Democrats elected in the first place. $2,000 stimulus checks. Now, this is at a time where millions have been thrown into poverty as a result of the coronavirus pandemic. Stimulus checks are not only necessary, but also extremely popular among both Democrats and Republicans. It is very, very necessary. And so there just happens to be one little snag. And this time, it's not Mitch McConnell. This time, it's not Republicans. It's Joe freaking Manchin. Ah, yes, Joe Manchin. So now the Washington Post earlier reported today that he had voiced fervent opposition to providing $2,000 stimulus checks, putting the so-called moderate lawmaker at odds with President-elect Joe Biden, congressional Democrats, and even some Republicans. He said, quote, "Absolutely not. No. Getting people vaccinated, that's job number one." So now, immediately after this comes out, Joe Manchin's spokesperson is like, backpedal, backpedal, backpedal. Oh, I didn't say that we weren't going to do it. No. It just said which was priority. Now, this is the weakest backpedal I've ever seen. Because everything that I've seen about Joe Manchin is that he loves the fact that Congress right now is split. Okay, Congress is split. You've got 50-50, and Kamala Harris is the tiebreaker, which means people like Joe Manchin are suddenly, for some reason, relevant again. And this guy is soaking it up. He's like, oh, now's the time to reach out to the moderates. Now's my time. I'm a kingmaker. Oh, Jesus Christ. So now, here's the thing. Okay, if you want to focus on vaccination, here's why it doesn't make any sense, all right? Now, vaccination is super important, but even if we were going Operation Warp Speed, right? Well, still getting people vaccines is still going to take months, even if we speed it up. Now, the Trump administration has been unbearably slow in getting this going, okay? And so, yes, that is a big problem. We need to speed it up. Even if we do speed it up, best case scenario is sometime mid next year, right? So what are people going to do until then? You can't just willy-nilly open up the economy like a lot of Republicans are calling for. That wouldn't help. No, you've got to get people vaccinated. You've got to get herd immunity built up. And then we can actually begin to open up and get back to our lives, which I can't wait. But it is going to take some time. It's going to take a lot of time. And so our healthcare system, by the way, compared to countries with robust single-payer systems, is so deeply inefficient at large-scale projects like massive vaccinations that, look, it's going to take months and months to get this done. We've already seen slowdowns, we've seen problems, and now, of course, we have issues with nurses, and not just nurses, but medical professionals that are saying, oh, no, you know what? I'm going to pass on taking this vaccine anyway. And so you have also that problem that's going on. So we don't have the infrastructure, and seemingly we don't even have the will as a country to massive vaccinate ourselves to the point of where we no longer, have to do the social distancing, mask measures, and lockdowns. It's a big issue, big issue. So now, when it comes to the stimulus, what are people going to do in the meantime? That's why getting vaccines shouldn't be the number one priority. Yes, it should be absolutely a priority, But right now, something that you can do to help the American people is to get money into their pockets, because it's not just stimulus, it is survival money. It is survival money. Okay, so this is a problem, all right? But here's what Manchin says about this, and it's frustrating. He says, how's the money that we invest now going to help us best to get jobs back and get people employed? And I can't tell you that sending another check out is going to do that to a person that's already got a check. What are you talking about? You realize people have to spend money, right? Survive. People spend money as soon as they get it, especially during a pandemic where so many people have lost their jobs. Millions of people, tens of millions of people have lost their jobs during this pandemic. They no longer have that income. And you're saying, oh, what are they going to do? They already got a check. They got a $600 check. I mean, what could rent be? $10? Come on. No, this guy, no. See, with COVID lasting as long as it has, and the government not doing really very much to help, especially when you compare it to other countries that have done things like, making sure that they get, a lot of people get 100 or 80 to 100% of their former income from their job from the government instead. So these people still continue to have money in order to spend on their stuff. Okay, we didn't do any of that. And so what were people having to do, especially without nationwide rent and mortgage moratoriums and a lack of a UBI? Well, they blew through their savings. That's what happened. All right? They blew through their savings. And so these people who had money no longer have it. So what are they going to do? And so here's the thing. I don't like calling these checks stimulus checks. Why? Because we're not really stimulating anything. What we're doing here is we're just making sure to give enough people enough for survival. That's what it is. These are survival checks. And so I hate the argument, and Mitch McConnell used it to avoid giving people stimulus checks, is that, hey, if you give people to money or money to people who have money, well, that's bad. Well, that doesn't make any sense. So here's this little thing that you can do. I learned this little trick, right? It's called taxing people. So I don't care if a rich person gets a check. I don't care if a person who already has money has gotten a check. Guess what? You can tax that out later. I don't care if Jeff Bezos gets a $2,000 check. That's like lint, that's pocket lint to him. But you can tax that and more back if you were so worried about, the deficit, losing money. All right? And so the other thing, of course, is that $2,000, a one-time $2,000 check, still is not enough to bring people back from the brink. Okay? The American people right now are $70 billion behind in rent collectively. $2,000 might be 1 month of rent in many places, many of the big cities. But Joe Manchin doesn't understand that. Joe Manchin is worth anywhere from $3 to $7 million. So he's got no idea what it is like to be someone who is suffering right now. No idea. And besides that, okay, the legislation itself, a standalone $2,000 check, is incredibly popular. It's got huge support. And again, it is why the Democrats were able to take back the Senate from Mitch McConnell. Mitch McConnell blocked it. You had Trump. You had Republicans. You had Democrats. You even had Chuck Schumer, Nancy Pelosi. They pushed these checks. And by the way, Chuck Schumer is actually trying to continue pushing these checks. He said this: one of the first things that I want to do when our new senators are seated is deliver the $2,000 checks to American families. Manchin's response to this, it's going to piss me off. We have a difference of opinion. That's the beauty of our whole caucus. We have a difference of opinion on that. F off, scumbag. Piece of crap. Smug. He's so smug, this guy. Joe Manchin. Ugh. I mean, this guy believes, I really do think that he believes that Americans shouldn't even get the bare minimum of help from the government. Okay, here's some bootstraps for you. By the way, did you know how important I am now in the Senate? I'm the moderate. You should all bow down to me. I'm the all-important, mushy moderate, which, again, the moderate position is actually $2,000 checks. You know what the progressive position is? $2,000 monthly checks, retroactive at the beginning of the pandemic, and lasting until the end of it, along with moratoriums on rent, mortgages, student cancellation, and guaranteed health care. That is the progressive position. The moderate position is the $2,000 checks. Where's Joe Manchin on that? He's in the way conservative position. Now, that said, could we get past Joe Manchin on that? Well, that would depend on how we do it. I mean, you could have an up or down vote. Most likely, Republicans would do a filibuster, but it is possible that there could be enough Republicans in favor of this to pass a 60-vote threshold. There's one way of doing it, but still, you would want to have as many Democrats as you can on board. You'd have to have 50 out of 50. And losing Joe Manchin, maybe there's a Republican that could fill that position, possibly, but I always hate having to count on Republicans to do the right thing. And I'm just talking about a straight up or down, $2,000 check, nothing else in it. Okay, you can do the other stuff later, but the most important thing that you can do right now, and the most effective thing that you can do right now to ease the pain of the American people, is to make sure that everybody has that check and send it out as soon as possible. They can do it without, putting in this gigantic bill you can work on later. I'm just saying, that would be the best way to do it, the quickest way to do it, the most efficient way to do it. And again, all we're calling for is the bare minimum. And right now, I'm afraid that this action from Joe Manchin is what we're going to see for the next 4 years. Okay? Democrats bring up policy. Progressives, they lead the way. They push for good policy. And then you have D-bags like Joe Manchin that decide to block it because what Joe Manchin is basically Mitch McConnell with a D next to his name. That's it. So I think we need to remember this, all right? So smug Joe Manchin can sit there and think that he's, king shit, basically. Sitting there saying, oh, you've got to appeal to me now. I actually am relevant and I actually have power. Well, we need to take that power away from him. How do we do that? Primary the shit out of him. So now he's in West Virginia. There happens to be a really good progressive from West Virginia that has tried to primary Manchin a couple of times now. That she could really use your support. Her name is Paula Jean Swearingen. And she's a real progressive who would fight for, you. Fight for every American person. In order to get not just one $2,000 check, but Medicare for all. The Green New Deal, okay? And $2,000 monthly checks. This is somebody who would actually fight for you. So just remember that when next time Joe Manchin is up for election, that we could get a real progressive in office and take this self-important D-bag out of the equation, send him back to West Virginia. If you enjoyed this video, please give us a like and share with your friends. You can subscribe and help out the channel by becoming a patron. It's patreon.com/Jeff Waldorf, or you can become a channel member as well by hitting the join button below.